Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. So, the haters of Russia, which are located in London, England, provided the Ukrainians with missiles to strike Russia. What would you do if you were, let's say, in charge of Russia? What would you do to London? Well, we're going to discuss that one. That's the first topic. The second topic. Belarus is ready to deploy troops in Ukraine. Well, as soon as they will have Oreshnik in December, they might do that. Third topic, massive Russian missile with Kinzhals and drone attack on Ukraine last night from the 2nd to the 3rd of November 2025. And the last topic, meow is here. The last topic, in a surprise move, or maybe not that surprising, Vučić, the president of Serbia, is ready to supply Europe with ammunition that could be, they say, we have no problem if you sell it or you give it to Ukraine. That is something that the Russians did not like at all. Why? Because the Serbs claim they have so much ammunition, much more than France produces. I mean, you don't expect France to produce anything good but garbage, but anyway, maybe some good wine, maybe some good cheese, and lots of diversity. So, let's start with the first topic, which is UK has delivered more Storm Shadow cruise missiles to Ukraine for strike on Russia, according to Bloomberg. You see, these guys are not even hiding it anymore. So this third party, supposedly, uses the, second party, first party, and then you got the Russians. Strikes on Russia, not strikes on Russian troops, which would leave it like, well, maybe Russian troops in Ukraine. No, in Russia. All right, so I have two articles on this one. So let's start with the first one. This is 3rd of November. The UK government has recently approved the delivery of additional Storm Shadow cruise missiles to Ukraine, enabling Ukrainian forces to continue striking targets on Russian territory. So, Storm Shadow missiles are high-precision air-launched weapons with a range of over 250 kilometers. So that would be about 150 miles. Let's put it that way. So 250 kilometers. New Voice of Ukraine. UK boosts Ukraine long-range punch with fresh Storm Shadow deliveries. So let me show you a little map and let's see what that could mean. Remember, they did not say on Russian troops or the invaders or no, Russian territory. Now you can say, what the hell? Why are you talking like that? Well, I will explain. So this is the map of Ukraine, right? This is West Ukraine, this is East Ukraine, this is the line of contact. So we have here the border and here we have Moscow. Now from here to here there's about 500 some kilometers. They can't reach it there, but they can probably reach it as far as this area. Nevertheless, I want to ask you this question, and I always give you this example or analogy. You fight the neighbor right here, regardless if you're the bad dude or the good dude. You fight this particular guy, and you have another, and you shoot his family, your family. You have casualties, they have casualties, and so on. And you're kind of winning because you're advancing. And then you have another neighbor right there who gives this neighbor good enough weapons to, let's say, cause casualties in your family. What would you do? Well, I know exactly what I would do. I would go to that guy's house, I would kick the door in, fuck him up real bad. That's what I would do. All right? But you say, hey, I dare the Russians to do anything to the English. And when I say English, I'm not saying English people. I don't even know who they are anymore because they love somehow people from other continents more than the ones from their own native lands. and the English are in charge of Great Britain, not the Scots or the Irish or the Welsh. Let's start with that one. So these guys in London are, or this is, as I said, the head of a Hydra. What would you do with the head of the Hydra? I'm not talking about, anything else, but this is one of the focal or the center command posts in Europe or globally. Remember, that guy, you're not fighting that guy. He is fighting you. There's no alliance between the neighbors, but he's providing that. Wouldn't you stop the source? I would. That's why these guys actually accurately, how should I put it, reportedly, well, it happened here, for real, strike the Russian, they say, oil and gas supplies to their military to prevent the Russian military to fight. So wouldn't you do the same thing and strike, I don't know, London or wherever these guys produce the storm shadows? I would definitely do that. 100% I would do that. All right, that's the first one. Second one, Belarus again says it is ready to deploy its peacekeepers to Ukraine. Well, the peacekeepers in Ukraine will be deployed only under one scenario, and that is if the Russians do not collapse, and they agree with that, and they will never agree. So this scenario is dead before delivery. The Russians will not allow that. The Russians are in Ukraine all or nothing. Ukraine is going to be a buffer zone, is going to be our sphere of influence. You, NATO, will not be in it. You, NATO, will have no say in it unless we allow you to. Now, the Belarusians again says it is ready to deploy its peacekeepers to Ukraine. I don't think that's a good idea, and I tell you why. I don't think the Ukrainians would like to have the Belarusians on their territory. I'm not saying they would like to have the Russians, but nevertheless. So the talk with the peacekeeping force is just a baboonish peacekeeping force. They will not be needed if Russia collapses. If Russia collapses, it's going to be again Ukraine 2014, 15, 16, 17, which is NATO will take over, and they don't need to call them peacekeepers because they're going to take Russia as well. When I say Russia, I'm saying their natural resources. They will probably have the Russians destroy their nuclear arsenal. They will definitely get over its media. The politicians will be zapped. The military will be changed with the next echelon of Western trained military officers. And the culture will be changed as beautifully as it is in the European Union, which is a semi or more of a dictatorship, tyranny. All right, next one. Russia struck again Ukraine last night. It is 4 hours ago, today on the 3rd of November. Russia mounts strikes at Ukrainian military infrastructure, Ministry of Defense. This is a MiG-31K, I think it is, delivering a Kinzhal hypersonic missile, could be fitted with a nuclear warhead. The Russian military delivered a barrage of overnight strikes, including with the use of Kinzhal hypersonic missiles at Ukrainian military-linked energy facilities and other infrastructure in response to Kiev's terrorist attacks on civilian targets in Russia, the Russian Defense Ministry said on Monday. And I'm quoting, in response to terrorists, I don't like this thing, in response to. You have to say in response to United States of America's creating problems in Ukraine. I strike you, unfortunately, because they are smart enough or shirkers or weak enough not to fight head on. They fight with your lives. There you go. That's how I would say it. Not in response to terrorist attack launched by Ukraine. Ukraine without storm shadows would not launch anything. So what do you want? You can say, well, just a second, Eamon, just a second. Guns kill only if the people use them to do that. You know, a gun could be used to defend yourself, or could be, or to say the back off, let's deterrent, or could be for committing crimes, obviously. So in this case, Ukraine could not commit terrorist attacks without the help of the West. And I'm not the West, Anglo-Saxon West. This is US and England. That's all. The rest are baboon dragged along because they are jackals. So again, they say, well, it's a terrorist attack. Crimes occurred all sides, not both sides, all sides, all right? But let's see what they did. So according to the Russians, they struck military, they say, defense industry enterprises, power and gas infrastructure of Ukraine, ensuring their operation infrastructure of a military airfield and a repair facility for weaponry and military hardware of the Ukrainian armed forces. Okay. 12 missiles and 138 drones strike Ukraine overnight, Air Force. All right, so that's what, 150, isn't it? Okay. Russia fired Kinzhal, Iskander and waves of Shahed drones overnight. Ukraine's air defense shot down one Kinzhal, dream on, baby doll, and 115 of 138 drones. The enemy struck with 3 air ballistic Kinzhal missiles, 4 Iskander-M. Now, just so you know, these guys cannot shoot this down, or the Kinzhals. But they say it because it's a commercial campaign from the industrial complex, military industrial complex, and 5 surface-to-air guided missiles. Air defense intercepted 1 Kinzhal, 115 over the north, south, and east of the country. They tell us what. The enemy also attacked Mykolaiv and Mykolaiv Oblast in Dnipro. All right, so they say Sumy, Mykolaiv, Dnipro. Anything else? No. So they say, the Russians struck Sumy, right? Probably Dnipropetrovsk right here, and Mykolaiv. So these are the 2 oblasts that they mentioned, and Sumy. They didn't mention any other ones. So that gets me to the last topic, which is, surprisingly, Serbia ready to sell large quantities of ammunition to the European Union, even if it is then passed on to Ukraine. Is it because of this? This is the 3rd of November. Protesters and government supporters clash on streets of Belgrade, orchestrated by outside forces, obviously, the same as in Ukraine in 2014. So is this the reason why? Dueling rallies were held in Serbia after the anniversary of a deadly railway station collapse. So I want to tell you this. So they say, right, where son died in the collapse, get outside Serbian parliament building. So they say that all this fight between some Serbian population, citizens, and their government is because it was a collapse of an infrastructure somewhere in Novi Sad or something like this in November 1st, 2024. So they tell us that in November 2024, in the 1st of November 2024, the government corruption and mismanagement was the source or the cause of a collapse of an infrastructure where one person died. Now, don't you think that if, let's say, tomorrow in the United States of America, an infrastructure collapse, like a bridge, which collapsed, right? Is not something like, oh, it never collapsed. It collapsed. Is that a reason why for a year already to have this kind of mass demonstrations, violent demonstrations, just because of that? Now, I don't like corruption, but corruption is everywhere. It doesn't mean that if it's everywhere, we should accept it. But just to understand where the source of the grievance is. One something bridge collapsed, whatever it collapsed over there, one person died, and that is because of the corruption. Now, do you think that the supporters of the government, they like that? Do you think they like that that bridge collapsed? Do you think that they like the government if the government is indeed corrupt? Now, do you think that the guys who support the Serbian government are just dumb or criminals, and the other ones are the ones who are right and they know what they're talking about? Why? I mean, we've seen this movie before. We've seen it in Romania in 1989. We've seen it in Ukraine clear in 2014. We've seen it many times. And it's always the same. The external interference to change governments. That's what it is. So I'm not saying that there's no corruption. The Serbs know their own business. My point is, this is, I think, an organized, orchestrated, funded overthrow of a legitimate government of Viktor Yanukovych, of Mr. Vučić, Alexander Vučić, right? That's it, orchestrated. I guarantee you that if tomorrow Vučić and the government goes and the pro-European government shows up, there's going to be peace and nice because there's going to be no more corruption. That's it. They're going to fire the old guys and they're going to put the new guys because the new guys somehow are better. I remember after the revolution in Romania in 1989, where they all called the communists. The communists are better. The communists. Okay, they got the communists down. What did they do? Worse. Corruption, abuse, and billionaires overnight. So, thank you very much. So, the good guys removed and replaced the bad guys. Correct? No, it's not correct. It's just a power play. And it's played by the forces, outside forces. So, be careful, Serbia. Because, yes, okay, Vučić leaves. Their government leaves. You know what you're going to be? You're going to be slaves to the European Union and the guys in charge of the European Union. And in charge of the European Union is not, what's her name, Ursula von der Leyen and other baboons. No, those are just tools, like Trump. At least Trump was elected. All right? So let's go and see what the Serbians want to do with their ammunition. Serbia produces a huge amount of ammunition and is ready to supply it to anyone in Europe, according to Serbian President Alexander Vučić. And I'm quoting, "Our depots are full of ammunition and we are producing more, especially mortar shells. We produce more ammunition than France. Ammunition is needed in Europe." Now, I wouldn't give France as an example. That's a socialist failed state. I would use something that like, let's say, Switzerland. "Ammunition is needed in Europe, so I have offered our friends in the EU," oh, your friends now, "the opportunity to conclude a purchase agreement with us and take everything we have. That would be a phenomenal contribution we can make to European security." What is that, Vučić? No. "We asked whether the ammunition could later be used in Ukraine. He replied that, and I'm quoting, "buyers can do whatever they want with it," and added that the European Union has not yet responded to his offer. Right. And what else we have? Next one and the last. Vučić, "Europe can resell Serbian ammunition to Ukraine." Why do you think the change of heart from Vučić? Or maybe showing something else? Do you think that he feels that his reign is shaky? Or maybe he's going to sell only certain kind of ammunition? First, I don't know if the ammunition that the Russians have would fit the, let's say, Western Europe's weapons. I mean, let's talk about the weapons in use. I'm not talking about Eastern Europe and Central Europe, countries that still operate under the Warsaw Pact, you know, AK-47 variant, AK-74, okay, modernized and so on. So it's not, I don't think the Germans would buy it for them, just to resell it. They buy it and send it to, buy it with the German people's money, borrowed by the bankers, got it? And the German folk, the industrialization occurs in Germany as we speak, will have to pay with interest, and their families, their children and grandchildren will pay this, not mistakes, this crime. I think it's a crime. So Vučić may be selling certain things to the Europeans, maybe certain things that really don't matter. I'm guaranteeing you that the Russians allowed him to do that. After all, the Russians probably say, well, you can send how many weapons you want and how much ammunition you want to one person. That's all the Ukrainians will have in the near future. 3 people fighting. You can send them 50 airplanes. They can't operate 50 airplanes, there's 2 people. Oh, you got it? So I think the Russians, that's why. Yeah, send them mortars, sell them if you want. They are already in a manpower and a man shortage over there. But nevertheless, I don't think that Vučić will send a lot. I think he's going to just send garbage, but garbage could be used sometimes, you know, slingshots and smear over the face. But nevertheless, here is Vučić. What do you think about it? I think is that kind of help of a person who knows you will fail. Have you met those friends when they come and say, well, I can help you, man. I can help you, knowing that you will not succeed. And they will help you because they know, and they just appear to help you because you know, oh man, that's great, great, great. He's not gonna. And when you succeed, you're gonna see their face being like, oh my God, this guy succeeded. So I think that's why Vučić is helping these guys, because he knows they will not succeed in Russia. That's why I think it's not about an ammunition shortage over there. I think it's a manpower shortage, and not only. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.